Hey everyone, it's Alison Heikkila. Thank you so much for joining me for my latest video for Imagine. Today we are going to be using pattern paper and Memento inks with dies to create a really happy little spring scene. So I've got a bunch of Memento colors. We probably won't use all of these. We'll see what happens as I go along. But I've got some pattern paper here, and some of the patterns are purposely more subtle than others. You can see that this kind of looks like a gel press print. This kind of looks marbleized. These are really old papers from my collection that you really can't get anymore, but just use whatever you have at home. And then I have from Carta the Gather at Home collection, and the patterns on here that we're going to be using are a little bit more obvious. I'll show you how we're going to use them shortly, but they're really pretty. We're going to use this one, a couple of others, probably this one, but you can see that they're really very sweet. There's a soft little dot that's there that you can see. And with that, we're going to be using from Spellbinders the Botanical Solarium die set. And you can see there's a bunch of really cool dies, and we'll be inking up these dies with the pattern paper, and it's going to be a really sweet little card. So let's get going. I've pulled out most, if not all, of the dies that we're going to be using, and we're going to be repeating a bunch of these. For example, we'll be doing the pot 3 different times with 3 different papers. We'll probably use this fern, with 2 different papers, etc. The only one that I'll probably die cut in white will be these floral toppers. So these go right on top of each of the flowers. You can see these here, they match up with those, and it'll just be a little bit easier to just cut them all once out of white, and then we can just ink up with whatever colors we choose. So when talking about patterns, we want to go with something that works with whatever the element is, as far as size, as far as style, etc. So this pot is pretty small, so I'm not going to want to do something that's really overpowering, like this welcome. First of all, the welcome won't really show because of this chevron that's happening through the middle. You'll wind up cutting the word off quite a bit. It might not be complete anywhere on the pot, so it's not really going to work. This gingham would be okay, but again, it's kind of big. You're going to lose a lot of what the pattern is intended to look like, so it might not be the best option, which is why I'm going with something with a small dot here and the other ones that I showed you earlier. And then, on top of that, we're going to be combining cardstocks and papers and whatnot to get different layers from one thing. So this is going to have at least 2 layers. So I need to go through my greens here and decide what works with what. So I'm thinking that for this fern, I'm going to probably use these 2. So I'll die cut it once from this and once from that. And if I need to do a third, I'll probably just repeat one of them, and so on and so forth. So you want to look at the colors, you want to look at the size in relation to whatever the die is that you're doing. And then you want to, of course, look at your ink colors and see how the inks relate to what you're working with as well. Make sure that if you've chosen a palette of colors, let's just look at this top sheet here. If you've chosen a palette, make sure that you have the inks to go along with it. The only color that I didn't pull out that I might grab later is Teal Zeal, and I only have that in a large full-size pad, but I'm not sure if we're going to use that. But you can see how pretty the teal is in here, but we'll see if we need it. So I'm going to, off camera, cut out all of these pieces because you don't need to see me doing all of that, and then we'll come back and start inking everything up. I have done all of my die cutting. I might have a few extra things, but if I do, I'll just wind up saving them with the die set itself. And I've paired up ink colors to go with all of the different elements. So I have a bunch of different brushes off to the side here. We're going to use several different techniques to colorize a bunch of these dies. So I'm going to kind of push some of these things up, some of these elements, so that we have more of a working space here. And then we'll get going. I think I'm going to start with the pots because that's going to be our, the base of what we're doing. Originally, my thought was that I would kind of give different pots different pieces. Like I would swap, between the pink or the coral and the blue and kind of swap these pieces. But I think I'm going to just leave them as is. So I have, starting off with Rhubarb Stalk here. And I'm going to zoom in and make it a little bit easier for you to see what I'm doing if we're close up. Okay, I think that's good. And I'm going to move these off to the side a little bit more. There we go. I've got Rhubarb Stalk here, and I'm going to just do a little bit of a tap with this brush and add some color to the rim. Now, when you're working with pattern paper, there are different types of paper, as you all know, I'm sure. Some of them are shiny, some of them have a matte finish to them, some of them are double-sided, some of them are single, and all of these different elements will affect your inking a little bit differently. I tend to not want to ink up on something that's shiny with a dye ink like this because it's really not going to accept the ink. It'll just kind of rub right off, if not immediately, as the item is handled. So you don't really want to add inking to something that's got like a high gloss to it, at least not with Memento. There, you could use like StazOn or something like that perhaps, but trial and error is always the best way to go. I'm going to add a little bit to this sort of chevron here. It's not going to be perfect, but we don't need it to be perfect. We just need it to stand out a little bit because I think it's really cute. Back and forth, just kind of highlighting that little chevron. And if you have Memento markers, you could always use those too. And kind of just follow the detail because it's debossed. That chevron is debossed. And you could do it that way if you want. That's cute. Okay, so now we're going to put this off to the side and we will adhere the pieces together in a little while. I just want to double check to make sure that I like how this looks, and that's really cute. Okay, so that's one. The next one is going to be the Nautical Blue, and then we'll do the London Fog. So, new brush, just so that I don't have to keep cleaning things off. And we're going to do the same type of thing. Whoops. And if you want to do, you know, some of the chevrons on the pots and not others, that's okay. You can do it however you want. Just play around and see what works for you. And if you don't have long nails like I do, and you're trying to hold this down, if you have maybe a small pick like this, or you can set it back into the negative space, or the positive space really, of where you cut it from, and you can always ink it that way. In addition, you can also take some temporary adhesive and use that to kind of hold your small pieces in place. So for this one, I'm going to just do the side a little bit. Give it a different look. We'll see how that turns out. And I do think that I want to kind of add some to the middle. I changed my mind. And it's okay to change your mind. That's cute. Okay. I will do the London Fog off screen because you've already seen what we're doing here. And we'll move on to one of the other dyes. So let's take this one here. I'm going to use Northern Pine for this. One of the things that I really like about dye inks from Imagine is that they have a felt pad. So you can see that it's got, or at least I hope you can see, it's got a bit of a texture to it. And that I use to my advantage very often because I like adding texture to things without putting a whole lot of work into it. I'm thinking that maybe this might be a little bit dark for what I want to do, so we might wind up switching colors. Let's take a piece of scrap. Yeah, I really like it, but it might be a little bit dark. We'll try it anyway. Okay, so I don't need to worry about the flowers because I've got these flowers here. You can't see them, they're off screen. I've got flowers that were cut out of white that we'll add color to later. So you don't need to worry about, getting it on the flowers. So we're going to take the pad and we're going to just lightly sort of tap it onto the die cut, excuse me. Just a little bit. There we go. That actually is a good color for this. You can see that it just adds a little bit of texture without it being overpowering, because this pattern paper doesn't really show much of its pattern in such small areas like this, and that's fine. I was just really going for the color more than anything else with the foliage. But that's it. Simple. That's already inked. We're done with that. Now here are the flowers for it. We're going to do an additional technique for this. So I've got Angel Pink Memento here, and I'm going to watercolor with it. So I'm going to add, you're not going to be able to see it on screen because of my black mat here, but I've got a Princeton Snap size 4 round brush. You can use whatever brush you've got. I've got a glass of water to the side. I've got my little towel here to sop up any excess water, and I'm going to just go in to that bit of inking that I got jumping flowers here, guys. It's a little too much water. You know what? I've got a good idea. Hold on. I grabbed the re-inker. So this is like a concentrated version of the color because my pad might be a little dried out. So I'm just going to put a couple of drops there. Might be able to see that a little bit better. Okay, and we're going to go in with that color. Now, I had cut these flowers out of smooth Bristol cardstock because I knew that I was going to add color in this wet fashion to both sets of flowers that I die cut. So I decided to go with the Bristol because it can hold the water better than, you know, just regular white cardstock that I use for my card bases. So I'm just adding that color. So this is a third way that we can add color to die cuts that sometimes have pattern paper. Isn't that simple? Such a quick, fun way to do things. And you can, of course, layer up your colors because they're dye-based, so they're translucent color. So if you keep layering and layering and layering, it will get darker as you go. But you can keep it really simple and just do one coat if you'd like. But these have a debossed detail in the center. So if you wanted to kind of go in and add a little bit more color in the middle to make that stand out a bit more, you can totally do that. So just a little drop of the ink is all you need for this. Isn't that sweet? What a quick way to colorize these. And another option is before you die cut, you can ink up your cardstock. Say you're cutting out of this paper. You can open up your ink pad and just swipe across the whole thing and colorize it that way and then die cut it if you want to, if you don't want to deal with fiddling with, you know, these teeny tiny flowers. So that's another option for you. Okay. I'm going to move these out of the way and clean up this bit of ink. Moving on to these little leaves, I'm going to put them in my reverse tweezers, which honestly, I struggle with these. I use regular tweezers so often when I'm making jewelry and whatnot, or other things, that I struggle with the reverse tweezers sometimes, and I squeeze them when I shouldn't. But I think we'll be able to handle it this time. So I'm using Cottage Ivy, and I'm inking the edges of this leaf. So now I've got to flip this a little bit. And again, this has like debossed veining on it that you won't really be able to see unless we carefully go across it. I feel like I need more than what I'm showing here. So let's see. I think I'm going to use my pick here and hold this in place and just kind of swipe a little bit. I think that's okay. You know, we're not going for realistic here, folks, because they're not real. So if they don't have realistic colors or realistic veining or whatever, it's all right. They're just whimsical, sweet little flowers and foliage. So I'm going to pick this up again and do the sides. Okay. Turn that around, and there we have it. So that's cute. And I might go a little lighter on these last two. So that's that one. I'm going to be honest, I don't think I'm going to add any color to this because I really like how that looks. So I think that we're going to hold off on the new sprout and maybe use it for something else. And then with Olive Grove, I'm going to use it for this. I think we'll go in with a brush and just add a little extra color here and there, but not overdoing it. That's not showing up quite enough. I think we're going to use a sponge dauber instead. Okay, so I have a little dauber, and I'm just going to lightly tap and let the sponge kind of leave a bit of the texture on the foliage. Can you see that? I think that's cute. We'll do that with one more. So what kind of tools do you have at home? What do you like to ink things with? Have you tried doing these techniques on any of your die cuts before? See, there we go. Nice and quick, but effective. This is a darker version so that we have some depth happening. There we go. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to color up the purple flowers that go with this foliage here. I'm going to finish these two, and I'm going to finish this pot, and then we'll build our card. I took the time to attach all of the pieces to the 3 pots. That came out so cute, right? Aren't these fun? A little bit of inking really makes such a big difference. And we used several different techniques to get everything inked, which is exciting to me. Okay, so now we need to finish off the card. So I've got an A2 sized white card base, and you know I can't just work on a white card base, so I grabbed some more pattern paper. This is from a different collection. This is from Kaisercraft, and this is the greenhouse paper pad. I love this paper, and I chose this because it works with the chevron that's in the pots, because you can see it has a light green chevron happening in here. So the shape worked back to what's on the pots, and the color is pale but coordinates really nicely. So we're going to wind up adhering these like this, and we have to put a sentiment on. And I've got a couple of choices here. Let me just pull them out of the package. Okay, so this is the Sending Sunshine Sentiments from Spellbinders. This coordinates back to the dies that we used earlier. So I was thinking about using either It's a Brand New Beautiful Day or Sending Sunshine and Smiles. I'm thinking that we're going to go with It's a Brand New Beautiful Day. I think I like that one. And then we need to decide which ink color. So I have 2 VersaFine Clair inks. These are my favorite inks to use for sentiments and detail stamping. They're so wonderful. Everything comes out so crisp. So I have Shady Lane and Rainforest. And truthfully, both of these colors work really well with what we have going on here. But I think I'm going to go with Rainforest. And the reason is because this is a more bluish green, where this is a more yellowy green, and there's more blue greens happening in here than yellow green. So I think that this is going to work out really well, although Shady Lane would be a great runner-up. So we're going to put this on an acrylic block, and I'm going to condition the stamp on my arm really quickly to kind of get off any of the manufacturing stuff that could be left over, like the residue. I just kind of swipe it on my arm like this. You can use a rubber cement eraser or something like that as well, but I find it just easier to do it that way. And then I'm going to align these like this. You could use a stamping tool if you want to, if you're worried, but I kind of just want to do it this way. Although now I'm hesitating. Does that happen to you too? You're like, ah, no, I can free stamp. It's no problem. And then it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't free stamp. I think we're going to free stamp. Okay. That's good. This is not quite straight, but it's okay because we've got this pattern here that can help us make sure that everything is lined up. So I'm going to ink this up. We have one shot, folks. One shot here. We can do it. Take a deep breath. There we go. Perfect. I love it. Now I'm going to adhere these down. I do have to trim off a little bit right here from this fern because it's sticking out of the side of the pot. And then we'll glue everything down. Okay, I trim those pieces and now I have my on-point glue. That's what I use to adhere all of the other parts to the pots and to each other. And now we're going to just adhere this back here. I really love this adhesive for rhinestones and sequins and other like embellishments, but it's also good for things like this. It dries nice and quickly. And since it's already clear, you don't have to worry about it showing. Okay, next we'll do this center pot because I have the fern underneath the flowers of the pot on the left. And if you want to, you can bulk up the back here to make it a little bit more even because there's 3 layers of cardstock, but I don't really think it's necessary right now. You could even add foam tape if you want them to pop up off of the card, but I will get a block to sort of help it stay down. And I didn't put any glue, I don't know if you noticed, on the fern area. I like that they kind of pop up a bit. I did glue the purple flowers because those are pretty delicate. But I don't think that we need to glue the rest of these. And if you have a T-square or a ruler or something, you can use that to help line everything up, but I like to live on the edge and just kind of eyeball it. When you're done with your glue, I like to tap it down a little bit just to get any excess glue kind of out of the nozzle, and then just make sure you put the tip back on and cap it properly. All right, then we can let this sit off to the side, and we're going to add a little bit of color to the base. So I've got my angel pink, and I think I'm going to go direct to paper with this. I did re-ink it. Yeah, we're okay. Made sure I let it sit for a while, but I want to have a bit of this color, not perfectly even and smooth. Otherwise, I would go in with like a dauber or a blending brush or something, but I kind of like it to be a bit uneven like this. Just going around the edge, letting that felt pad kind of do the work for me and leave some texture here and there. Okay. Now we can take a look and see if this has dried. It looks all right. Look at what a sweet card this is. Oh, that's adorable. All right, let me add a little glue to the back of this and we'll finish it off. Okay. Get this nice and centered. It's so cute how the flowers are popping up like that. All right. This card is done, folks. I think it's really cute. I hope that you learned a few things and plan on trying some of these tips for yourself when you have lots of die cuts that you're playing with. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will be back very soon with another video. Be well, stay safe, peace out.